Remember, don't get stuck with another sticker company. Stick with StickerYeti.com for all of your sticker needs and much, much more. Sticker Yeti is the place for all of your needs when it comes to stickers. Check them out today.
Welcome to the Keeping the Nostalgia Live show. I am Billy Powell, your host. As you can see with us is World Series champion, 1975 Cincinnati Reds, over 11 years of Major League Baseball playing. He is a motivational speaker. As you can see right there, there's the World Championship trophy. That is awesome. He's also a motivational speaker. He also has a book out, which is called Welcome to the Big Leagues, Every Man's Journey to Significance. And you guys all know that a lot of my shows are about Indiana high school basketball. So this is 6 degrees of separation. This man was an outstanding 3-sport athlete at Hammond Morton in Hammond, Indiana. And it is Darrel Chaney. Darrel, thank you so much for spending some time with us and helping to keep the nostalgia alive and talk about your baseball and your baseball career, your sports career, and coming from Indiana.
Thanks, Billy. Thanks for having me. Great to be here with you. When you talk about nostalgia, you're going way back when you put me on here, but I'm for it. Let's go, man. Yeah, I appreciate being on your show.
Well, tell everybody a little bit about your family and growing up in Hammond, Indiana.
Well, Hammond's up there in the northwest corner for all the folks that aren't geographically inclined. So steel mills, oil refineries, that was the dirty, polluted northwest part of Indiana where I grew up. My dad was a pipe fitter at an oil refinery for 35 years called St. Clair Oil Refinery. Matter of fact, between the time our high school baseball season ended and the time that I got drafted by the Reds, my dad got me a job working at that oil refinery. And I determined while I was there that there was no way I wanted to live that kind of life. God loved my dad and God rest his soul. He clocked in and out of there for 35 years. And we were brought up in a 900 square foot home. My brother, my sister, myself, and my mom and dad. And when my sister came along, my dad worked a lot of overtime, and my mom became a road guard and a cook at the local Catholic grade school to make extra money to add 200 square feet on the back of the house. So mom and dad moved into that new bedroom we built back there, and my sister got the master bedroom that my mom and dad had. My brother and I slept in the same room together. So that was our atmosphere that we grew up in. It was one of those typical 50s and 60s families that grew up in the industrialized society and learned to work hard, play hard, pray hard. Mom and dad brought us up as Catholics and took us to Catholic grade school. We probably could have gone to Catholic high school, but it cost too much. So I would have gone to a school named Bishop Knoll had they wanted to go that route. But we went to public schools after grade school, and that was Hammond Morton. And I became an avid sports fan when I was a little kid, like everybody else. And I can remember coming home from school there at OLPH, Our Lady of Perpetual Help grade school, and I walk to school and walk back, and I'd get home, and in the spring and summer when the Cubs games were on television, they broadcast all the games on TV on WGN, and I fell in love watching Ernie Banks play shortstop, so he became my idol. And I really idolized him. Wanted to be like him. He was a great inspiration in my life, much to the point where when I was 12 years old, and I had told my dad when I was 7, I'm going to grow up to be a Major League Baseball player because of Ernie Banks. I want to be just like Ernie Banks. And when I was 12 years old, our last year Little League, Ernie Banks became he was our banquet speaker. And it was in August of 1960. And we only had one Little League in town, but it was a big one. And we had one banquet. And Ernie was our speaker. And he had to hit a home run that day. He drove from Wrigley Field to Hammond at the St. Michael Ukrainian Hall. And boy, I was so excited to, hopefully get a chance to meet him. I had my program ready. It was just a fold over piece of paper and that said Hessville Boys Baseball Banquet, Ernie Banks speaker. So I had my ink pen ready to go. And told my dad, I said, I want to get his autograph. And my dad said, well, you've been waiting a long time for it, man. I went to a couple of Cubs games with Dad and worked my way down to try to get his autograph. You couldn't get near the guy. Everybody loved him so much. And so there was my opportunity to get an autograph from my role model and my idol. And we sat in the front row of that banquet hall, and the dais was up on a stage. So that's where Ernie sat. We were right below him. And we had an organ player, a piano player in the back of the hall, started playing Take Me Out to the Ball Game, so I knew he was there. And he came in the back door, and everybody just rushed back there to get his autograph, and I couldn't get near him. And I told my dad, I said, I'm worried I'm not going to be able to get his autograph. And my dad said, and my dad had something to do with this, I can tell you. He said, well, look, just keep your ink pen handy in your program there. When he's done speaking, since we're sitting so close to him, you can catch him on his way out, be the first one up there, just jump up there and get his autograph. And so I was ready. And he spoke for about 25 minutes, and I could quote you the whole speech. But the thing that impacted me the most that I stand by this day is, he said, to the moms and dads and the kids that were in the audience, he said, I just want you kids to know that I know I'm a role model to a lot of you out there, and I want to be a good one. So I want you, when you go to work, I want you to work hard. When you go to play, I want you to play hard. And when you go to pray, I want you to pray hard. And I said to myself, my dad's been telling me that. My mom and dad have been telling me that for 12 years. But it meant something different coming from him, And so when he's done talking, listen to this, Billy, when he's done talking, and this is all detailed in my book, and we can go over that later, but in my book, he said to me, he said to the audience out there, he said, before I leave, there's one more thing I want to do. I understand that there's a lot of kids out here in this audience that look up to me, but there's one especially out there that I want to meet. I understand he really wants to be a Major League Baseball player. He wants to be just like me. And I said, man, I'm sitting right here below him. I said, man, that's me. Are you talking about me? He said, now this young guy is a pitcher and a shortstop. I said, I'm a pitcher. I'm a shortstop. Golly, Lord, he's got to be talking about me. Work hard, play hard, pray hard. He said, this guy also threw a no-hitter this year. And I threw a no-hitter when I was 12 years old, Little League. I said, oh, man, that's me. He's got to be talking about me. Please call me up there. And he said he also plays for the Tigers. So that was me. And he said, so if this young man is still here, I'd like to come up on stage here, and I'd like to shake his hand. And so Darrel Chaney, will you please come on up here? And my dad, make sure he had a smile on his face. He said, no, get his autograph while you're up there. I walked up onto the stage. I'm 12 years old. I looked up at him. He was like giant of a man. He had a three-piece blue suit on, red tie, white shirt, looked like a banker. And if those folks that don't know who I'm talking about, Ernie Banks is the first African-American athlete, a professional athlete in Chicago. He's in baseball's Hall of Fame. First shortstop to ever hit 512 home runs, but on and off the field, he was that kind of a role model. When I was watching him play, not only could he hit, he had the 5 tools, hit for power, could run, throw. He also stood at attention when they played the national anthem with his hat over his heart, because he knew what the words of that song meant. We've lost our way there, ladies and gentlemen. We sure have. And he knew that he was playing baseball, and a lot of men and women put their lives on the line, just like they're doing today, so that we could live in a free country like this, and he could have an opportunity to play baseball. He came up during the post Jackie Robinson era, so not too far behind Jackie, and it wasn't easy for him, both in the big leagues or in the minor leagues, as I come to find out later when I got to know him really good. And so all this was going through my mind when I went up there, and he put his arm around me, and he kind of gave me a hug, and he said, now, young man, he said, remember what I just told you. Work hard, play hard, pray hard. And he says, now I always want kids to also learn to tell the truth. That way you'll never have to remember what you said. And I said, boy, isn't that good advice for a 12-year-old? Yeah, well, it's good advice for a 72-year-old grandfather, 3 boys, And he put his arm around me. He said, now, I want you to tell the audience the truth. What do you really want to be, Darrel, when you grow up? Tell them the truth now. And, he still had his arm around me. I looked up at him and said, Mr. Banks, all I ever want to be is a Major League Baseball player. And I pointed at him. I said, I want to be just like you. So he took the program and he signed it to Darrel Chaney, Ernie Banks. I'll see you in the big leagues. Well, man, I mean, that's a treasure for a 12-year-old kid. Plus what he said. And I took that home and I took a thumbnail, a thumbtack, and I put it up next to my cross behind my bed. Work hard, play hard, pray hard, learn to tell the truth. Ernie Banks, see you in the big leagues, Darrel. And 9 years later, that happened. I got to make the major leagues at the age of 21. We were in a summer series around June, I think it was. It's in the book. And I got to play this one particular weekend series. I think I played for Tommy Helms. Our second baseman was hurt or something, and on the Friday game, I wanted to get near him and say, hey, do you remember me? I couldn't get near the guy. He sometimes didn't take batting practice because he was busy or signing autographs and hugging kids and taking pictures and things like that. Things that I had dreamt about doing once I got his autograph after that banquet. And the second day of the series on a Saturday, my first time up, I hit a bullet double to right center field. I didn't hit much at all, but I hit many doubles. And he was moved at that 1969, if those Cubs fans remember out there, he was moved from shortstop to first base. They had a guy named Kessinger come along, and the Cubs had a really good team in 69. They had the pennant won, but they blew it. They had a 14-game lead in August and blew it. He was just as good a first baseman as he was a shortstop. Still hitting home runs too. So I hit this double, and I'm thinking, running to first base, should I stop? Should I stop and say, hey, remember me? I, quickly moved on. I could run pretty good. I got to second base, and Mom and Dad and my brother and sister were sitting behind the first base dugout there at Wrigley Field, and I knew my dad thought it was a great moment, and he's getting to play against his idol. And my dad was my coach or manager ever since I signed up to play Little League back when I was 7. And my second time up, I hit a little chopper over the mound. Like I said, I could run. I beat it out for an infield hit. Now I'm on first base. I'm standing there on first base, and I'm thinking to myself, there he is. I'm stepping on his foot almost. I got my foot on the bag. I got my hand on my knees, and I'm thinking, dear Lord, thanks so much for getting me here. Because at the end of the day, thank the good Lord for that opportunity. And so I'm standing there and said that quick prayer. I stand up, and this big old black arm comes around me. Ernie puts his arm around me, and he yells out real loud. Now, we had 36,000 people in the stands probably. We always packed them in when we came to Chicago. And Ernie said, Darrel Chaney, how you doing, young man? I know it's a long way from this banquet back in Hammond, Indiana. Wow. How long ago was that anyway? And I said, well, it's about 9 years, 3 months, 27 days. And anyway, he put his arm around me, and only the Cubs in the infield could probably hear what he was saying. He said, well, welcome to the big leagues, young man. I knew you'd make it. Now, he probably didn't remember my ugly mug from 9 years earlier. But that morning in the Chicago Sun-Times, there was a little blurb in the back of the sports section that said, Red's rookie dream comes true. And it was a little story about me wanting to be just like Ernie Banks and hoping that I get a chance to meet him, play against him, and all that. So that was a big moment in my life, obviously. And I followed Ernie. I played against him for a few years there before he retired. And in 1976, I got traded down to the Braves in Atlanta. And sure enough, the Braves have a big booster club called the Braves 400 Club. And before the 76 season, and I was a speaker at the time, Ernie Johnson Sr., one of the Braves broadcasters who played in the big leagues, said, hey, we're honoring Ernie Banks. And I said, yeah, man, I can't wait to see if he remembers me. He said, well, would you like to introduce him? And I said, there's nothing more I would love to do. And I said, I hope it doesn't take too long, but I got to tell this story as quick as I could. So I get up there to introduce Ernie and Banks, and he's 2 seats away from me at the podium. And I'm telling this story, and I look down at him, and he's got some tears in his eyes. And, you just think about it. He realized, I'm sure, that I was one player that he really had an impact on my life. And so I said, and we honored, who did we honor that night? Hank Aaron, I think it was Willie Stargell, and Ernie, and a couple other current Braves players. And I said, in all due respect to all the other wonderful players that are here today, I got to tell you, in my eyes, in my mind, this is the greatest player that's ever played this game. Not for what only he did on the field, but for what he did off the field and the impact that he could have on a young life. And so I said, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Ernie Banks. Well, we got a standing ovation. I mean, a big crowd, big banquet. Ernie comes up, and they hand me the plaque, and we turn to face the camera. He manages a smile. I'm looking like I'm bawling, and I shake his hand and thank him, and so all that story, his 1969 card I've got signed, and all this is all in one frame. Ernie's autograph is signed on his card from '69, and my rookie card from '69, I signed that and got it in the frame. Of course, that program that I had signed by him from 1960s in that frame, and then this picture of me handing Ernie that award is all in this one big collage frame. That's something that I won't sell, because it's the story of how a man and a great athlete can impact a young life. And it's an inspiration to myself when I talk to people and get to go out there and talk about my book, because my life mattered to Ernie Banks. I know it mattered to a lot of young men, but it mattered. Ernie Banks's life mattered to me, and my life mattered to Ernie. And it all comes together in that. And of course, we cover it quite well in the book. And how about that, though? I mean, and I wanted to grow up to be a Hall of Fame baseball player just like Ernie Banks. In the book that we have called Welcome to the Big Leagues, Every Man's Journey to Significance, the Darrel Chaney Story, is about a guy who wanted to have that happen to him, but it didn't. And how do you understand how much your life matters when you make one of your dreams comes true, and then the others don't? Your life still matters, not because even what Ernie Banks says about me, not because what my mom and dad said about me, or my brother, my sister, my friends. Our life, my life, our lives matter because God says our lives matter, and He says it a number of times. And how much He loves us in the Bible. So that's my story from growing up in an industrialized society, and it was special moments. There's a lot of things you forget as you get to be my age, but I haven't forgotten that, mainly because God doesn't want me to forget it, because I believe when He wakes us up in the morning, He's got something for us to do. And we just have to be alert to hear what His Spirit might be telling us of what He wants us to do any particular day. And so when you asked for me to come on the show, I'm thinking, well, He wants me on the show for a reason. He wants me to tell this little story, and maybe it'll have an impact on someone's life. The book certainly has impacted a lot of lives, and it's not a New York bestseller, but we're proud of it. The gentleman who wrote it is a Presbyterian pastor. I'm Catholic. We became really good friends along the way. And matter of fact, what is today? Today's Wednesday. Friday, we've got a Zoom YouTube thing going on out there. You all could Google it and join us if you want. Friday, 9:00 Eastern time. We're finishing the last chapter of this book discussion in a Zoom meeting, and it's been pretty good, pretty impactful. I've got a lot of friends back in Cincinnati that join in on this. One is one of our bat boys from the Big Red Machine era. Warren Brown. We got a couple of big Reds fans that join it, and we discussed and we'll do this again because it's gone over real well. We have a number of people that are on the screen, and a number of people that watch it on YouTube. It's recorded, and so it's another way of reaching out there and having an impact on someone's life. And the people that are on the screen get a chance to have their input at the end of the discussion. It's quite interesting to see young guys, older guys. My grandson's my oldest grandson is getting married in December. He's 22 years old. It's impacted him, and if he gets off of his work, he's a weatherman in Macon, Georgia, TV weatherman, just starting out his career. If he's not working, he joins us, and it's just neat to see all these things happen as a result of meeting Ernie Banks in 1960. And which, if you remember back then, Ernie Banks was one of the first guys to win the Most Valuable Player Award back-to-back years. He won it in '59 and '60, and and the Cubs weren't any good in '59 and '60. Yeah, you don't see guys win MVP awards nowadays when their team isn't playing very well, but Ernie did. Ernie did. He had a fantastic career. So we just lost him a couple years ago. Passed away of a heart attack. I believe he was 82 when he died. And all through the years, I stayed in touch with him. I ran across him at a number of conventions that I was working at. He would do a lot of representing United Way van lines and sign autographs at these conventions. So I'd go see him there, and we'd reminisce, and he'd bring me through the autograph line ahead of everybody and sit down, and he'd talk to me while he's signing autographs, and everybody's going by saying, "Who the heck is that guy?" Gets to sit down and talk with him while we're standing in line here. They had no idea I played in the big league, so I miss him, but he has been a force in my life since I was 7 years old, since I first watched him on television. Sorry to talk so long, but
hey, that's okay, man. Most of my interviews, I roll out that first question, and I just sit back and enjoy myself. So no,
that's nostalgia, right? So here we are.
Exactly. Everybody's noticing that you're wearing that California Angels hat and not a Reds or a Braves hat. Tell everybody about why you have that hat on today.
Yeah. So thanks for asking. That's why I wear it. A lot of people remember me that I played for the Reds and the Braves, but I had my son Keith. Played 2 years of pro ball in the Braves organization. He was a shortstop, second baseman, shortstop in college, and he realized that he wasn't going to make it, so he retired from baseball, and even wrote a letter of resignation to the Braves. I can't believe it, but he did. Quality kid I raised, I tell you. He is and he came back to get into education. He became he's been a principal in the Gwinnett County school systems here in Georgia. The largest employer in the state is the Gwinnett County school system. He has been an assistant principal and principal since he retired from baseball. He has been the principal of two major schools in Gwinnett County, and he started this school, Mountain View High School. Well, his three boys attended his school, and Chase, our middle grandson, was the athlete, another Chaney athlete in the family, and so we've got three generations of Cheneys that had an opportunity to play pro baseball, and it's kind of neat. Some fellow gentleman named John Bauer in Missouri, who's the president of a community college, a large community college, made posters of all three of us. Chase was drafted after his senior year in high school. He was drafted in the 14th round by the California Angels. And unlike in my day, they gave him a bunch of money, 14th round draft boy. I can tell you because it's public knowledge. Chase was a 14th round pick. He got $125,000 cash, plus when his career ends, the California Angels will put him through college at 4 years of any major university in the country. So it's a pretty nice little package. He's got a fallback. He's a pitcher, not a position player, although he could hit. I want him to go in the draft as a hitter. But the Angels got him as a pitcher. Of course, he's unemployed right now. He's on furlough from the Angels. He's not getting paid, which is I think a terrible thing the Major League Baseball did to these young kids. But the Angels got him on a workout regimen. He's dedicated to it. He's working at a golf course to make extra money, and he throws 94. He's got a great changeup and a pretty good slider. And keep an eye on that kid. He's got a great name, and there's a lot of guys that were drafted farther down in the draft that make it to the big league. So he's anxious to get back going again. I can tell you when he signed and he got this big bonus, I was the number 2 pick of the Reds back in '66, and I got $6,000. And then So to help Chase out, to let him try to understand how fortunate he is today, and how the money in sports has become so great, and everything's not relative. It's just not money. They got a great opportunity to make a lot of money in baseball today. So when we had a going away party for Chase after he signed, and went down to his house, and I took my first 9 years of contracts in the major leagues that I had with the Reds. And I just laid them out there on the counter, a copy of the contract. And I said, Chase, I just want you to know how fortunate you are and what kind of an opportunity you have in front of you. I said, what'd you get for signing Chase? He said, oh, real proud. I got $125,000, Grandpa, in 4 years of college. And I said, so to tell you how fortunate you are, I said, here's my first 9 years of playing in the major leagues. Add them up, Chase. Tell me how much they come to. And he said, it comes to 121,000 something. And I said, that's Major League Baseball. Just think, if you get to the major leagues and your first 9 years today, just take the minimum salary of a little over $500,000, add that up. You got yourself a pretty good life, pretty good career. So that's something I want you to think about when you go to shoot for the major leagues. How blessed you are to have the opportunity to play professional baseball. So, we've got three of us, 3 generations, and my son Keith is all in on Chase getting there. He's backed him all the way and paid for all the travel ball and things like that. So that's the answer that California Angels had. When he signed, he went out there to Tempe to play in this kind of a cross between an instructional league and a rookie league. It was basically, we're gonna teach you our way and work you out our way and everything. And the league that he was in wasn't much of one. No fans came, things like that. But I went out to see him pitch a game, and he had just gotten off of a start where he had struggled. And Cindy and I were out there, and one of the guys that was a big fan of mine who lives out there in Arizona came down to watch him play. So we had 4 of us, 6 of us in the stands. And Chase is pitching, and it was in August in Tempe, Arizona. Imagine how hot it was. God, I was dying. It was so hot. And Chase is out there, and he threw 6 innings, struck out 7, I think it was, gave up 2 hits, no runs, and just Grandpa was so proud. And I'm videotaping him, and I'm texting his mom and dad all this stuff, almost pitch for pitch, because they weren't there at that time. It was just me and Cindy and this other couple. And I said, this kid, he's got something. He's got something. I mean, we're in a rookie league. At that time, he was only 19. I said, but he's got something. And let's see what the good Lord takes him, how far he goes in this game. So when I do things like this, I wear the Angels hat because it's Chase's turn. Keith had a shot at it. I played in the big leagues. And we're just proud to have 3 generations. And we'll see. I tell you, if I can live long enough to see him pitch a game in the big leagues, whew, it's a great game. It's a great game and affords a lot of opportunity to some kids. I just think it's a shame today, Billy, that Major League Baseball has decided not to take care of these kids. I mean, they're spending – I'm going to get my soapbox here for a moment.
That's okay.
Just saw today where Major League Baseball players – Major League Baseball is paying for all these cutouts to have them in the stands, to have fans in the stands. I don't know what it costs. But I can tell you this, any major league club, if they would spend $1 million, $1 million, which is a drop in their bucket, they could pay their minor leaguers for the rest of this season. And
some teams did, right?
Some teams did for a while. The Angels did all the way through May, but they stopped now.
Okay.
Now, maybe when they start back up Friday or so, maybe they'll come back and take care of these kids. They can communicate. For a while there during the first part of COVID, they stopped paying them. The young players were not even allowed to talk to their coaches because their coaches were furloughed, the minor league instructors and coaches. And now they can communicate again, but they're not getting paid. And that's why Chase is working out there. And he's learning to play golf pretty good too. He can hit the golf ball a mile. But they're not paying. Most of the clubs aren't paying their kids, and I think that's a shame. And it doesn't baseball's a $10 billion business. They can take care of these kids. The Major League Baseball players' pension plan is fully funded. They've got $3 billion in the pension plan. They ought to reach back and give some of the older players, I'll take some more pension money. It's not gonna hurt them. Not gonna hurt them at all. It's gonna help a lot of older guys. There's guys my age and older that it just doesn't seem fair that their pensions are as low as they are, and we should really help those guys out. But that's the way it is. That's the way it's been. And I was involved in the Major League Alumni Organization for a number of years, and ended up being the chairman of the board of the Major League Alumni Marketing Group, which is a for-profit arm of Major League Alumni. And we lobbied a few years ago to get some of those older guys some more money, but it still isn't near what a guy can get today. A player today only needs 43 days to be vested in a major league pension. 43 days. When I played, I started out in '69. We had to have 5 years in, full years in total, and then we dropped it down to 4. And that went all the way till 1980 when they dropped it down to 43 days. But there's a lot of guys in a window there that aren't getting something, and some aren't getting enough. But it is what it is. So I try to make my middle grandson Chase understand all this, because there's an opportunity for him to become very wealthy. What's the minimum salary this year? $535,000, I think it is. And so today, if you were a player in the major leagues today, or the last 20 years, and you played 20 years in the big leagues, 10 years in the big leagues, and you waited till you were 62 or 60 to draw your pension, you make $150,000, $200,000. Pretty good deal. Pretty good deal for baseball. But it's a great game. They've messed around with it too much, in my opinion. I don't know. I was disappointed when they went to the DH in the American League. Now you can't knock a guy over at home plate. You can't knock a guy down at second base. They're going to put a guy on second in the extra innings to speed up the game, and thinking that's going to be good for the game of baseball. It was such a pure game for over 50 years.
Yeah.
I don't know why they messed with it, but they did. I remember the way it was meant to be played, though, because I played it that way.
Did you actually make it to Ball State to go to school, or did you sign with the Reds before that? And also, what Big Ten schools could you have possibly gone to if you had wanted to?
Well, I got letters of scholarship from all Big Ten schools and Notre Dame. For those viewers out there, I was fortunate enough to play in an undefeated state championship my senior year in football, and I was a quarterback of the team, and I was a defensive safety. And I became Parade Magazine All-American #1. I couldn't believe that all happened, but it did. So it afforded me the opportunity to go visit a lot of schools. I got a call from Ball State, and this is during the baseball season my senior year. And I was spending some weekends. I went to Iowa, Indiana, Michigan State. I got a call from Eric Parsegian to come visit Notre Dame, and I said, "Well, Coach, he wanted me to come this certain weekend." I said, "I've already committed to go to Michigan State that weekend and see Coach Duffy Doherty." And Coach Parsegian said to me, he said, "Well, we'll call you when the next opportunity comes up." Well, I never heard back from him. When Notre Dame calls, you better go, buddy, especially if you're a Catholic boy. So I don't know if they were disappointed, but I was disappointed I never got a call back. But in the meantime, I got a call from the head football coach at Ball State, Ray Louthan was his name. And he said, "Well, I want you to come. Now, we're not the Big Ten, but if you come to Ball State University, you're going to be my starting quarterback your freshman year, and you will be my starting shortstop your freshman year." So, "Well, how does that work?" He said, "Come on, bring your mom and dad." So Mom and Dad and I drove to Muncie. And, I think their stands sat about 8,000 back then. It was a Division II school. But he said, "You're going to be my starting shortstop, starting quarterback." I said, "Well, how can I, because all the Big Ten schools, they didn't want me to play back then. if you were on a scholarship, especially as a quarterback, they didn't want you to play spring baseball. They wanted you to focus on football in the spring. And I wanted to play baseball. That was still one of my dreams. Was number one dream was still to play Major League Baseball. But I was a pretty good football player, and I knew I could do something. And so Coach Laughlin says, yeah, he says, the reason you could be both is because I'm the head baseball coach too. I take time off in the spring and let my coaches handle football, and I manage the baseball team. And he ended up later becoming the athletic director there. So I signed to go to Ball State because of that. I took a lot of hits in the paper back home. People saying, well, the guy didn't think he can play Big Ten football and all that kind of stuff. Back then, I thought I could do anything I wanted to do. I was so good, one of those big studs. And so anyway, we signed to go to Ball State. And 2 weeks after we signed to go to Ball State, the amateur draft came up. And in the meantime, I was sending letters, Dear John. I sent a Dear John letter to John Pont in Indiana. I was accepting a scholarship offer to Ball State. And now I get the offer from the Reds, drafted number 2. And I'm thinking, whoa, wait a minute. Number 2, I'm the number 2 pick. I think I was the 44th guy in the country taken back then. We didn't have that many teams. And I said, man, this isn't that tough of a decision. I want to be a Major League Baseball player. Here I am. And so I called up Coach Laughlin and I said, I've got to go this route here. I appreciate the opportunity, but before I started thinking about being a football player, I thought about when I was 7 years old about being a Major League Baseball player, and I got to pursue it. I got to pursue this dream. And but every time I've gone 0 for 4, every time I went 0 for 4, I said, why didn't I go to Ball State? But so anyway, when the Reds came to sign me, the guy that scouted me was a guy named Darrel McReynolds, but he had been alerted to me by one of our coaches. Coach Greg Jansich was one of my high school coaches, Coach Georges and Coach Jansich. And Coach Georges hired Coach Jansich. Coach Jansich pitched for 6 years in the minor leagues with the Reds and got as high as AAA. We called him Big Dog. He was about 6'7", 250 pounds. I mean, you didn't want to mess with this guy. Gentle giant. He taught school at Hammond Morton for 50 years, and he coached almost that whole time. And so he had told the Reds about me, and the Reds sent Darrel McReynolds down to scout me. Apparently, they liked what they saw, and so I get picked. And Coach Jansich said to me, he says, "Now I want you to hold out for a lot of money. You're number 2 pick." Well, we didn't have agents back then, and Coach Darrel McReynolds. The scout Darrel McReynolds and the hatchet man, the cross checker, the guy that approves all the signs for the minor leagues for the Reds that year was a guy named Tony Rebello out of Texas. So they're sitting in our living room. The mom and dad are there in our big, 900 square foot house. No, we had 1,000 square foot, no, 1,100 square feet then. We built that room on for Mary Kay, her sister. So anyway, we're in the living room, and here these guys come into the living room sitting there. And I'm thinking, wow, I wonder what they're going to offer us. And they opened the contract up and they said, we're glad to offer you $6,000. Now, we'll give you a college scholarship too, but you got to go to college within 2 years after you sign this contract. I thought, well, that was a little bit of a bonus. But they sent me to winter ball for the first 4 years, so I never got to go to school. And so Tony Rebello is sitting there and he says, $6,000, this is a chance for you to fulfill that dream, Darrel. And my dad's sitting there and he says, wait a minute. My dad's going to be my agent. He goes in the back room and he picks out all my scrapbooks like my mom had kept of me all during my high school career. And my dad starts going through the scrapbooks. He said, look at this. I just want you to know what you're dealing with here. You got this All-American quarterback, he was a star basketball player. Look at, he hit 480 in the Legion ball, high school stud. That's not enough money. And he's going through the scrapbook, and those 2 guys are sitting there just being as nice as they could, listen to my dad. My dad must have taken a half an hour of bragging on me. And, mom's sitting right there. She's the one that put the scrapbooks together. I still have all this stuff. And Tony Rebello waited for my dad to get done, and he just looked at us, and he's looked at my dad, and he says, Mr. and Mrs. Chaney, you've got to be so proud of that young man right there. And I really appreciate you going through all this with us. It really tells us more about your son and what we're getting. But if he doesn't sign this contract today, he's going to pass up an opportunity to play for the Cincinnati Reds. And we're getting pretty good. So my dad says, well, wait a minute, Darrel, come here. And he says, so we walk into the kitchen, which was about 5 steps away. And we're in the kitchen, and Dad says, gosh, what do you want to do? And the money didn't mean anything to me. You know, it didn't. The college scholarship tag didn't mean anything to me. I said, Dad, I got a chance to play Major League Baseball. This is it. I don't care what they give me. And Coach Jancic later tells me, he said, no, they'd have given you $10,000 if you'd have held out. You know what a number 2 pick today? There was a number 3 pick this year that got $3 million because they had the draft.
Yep.
Only 20 guys and everything. But anyway, that was 54 years ago. And so I signed that contract. The next morning, Dale McReynolds, the scout, was 7 o'clock in the morning. He was at my door. And I got a picture of my scrapbook with my mom. My dad had gone to work, my mom, my Aunt Jess, and me. And I had a little bitty suitcase. Darrel Chaney, they took a picture of me, put it in the Hammond Times. Darrel Chaney's off to pro baseball. I'd never been on an airplane before in my life. I wasn't scared. I was going to play. I flew to South Sioux Falls. Dale McReynolds took me to O'Hare Airport, flew to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and started my baseball career, making $400 a month, $2 a day meal money, and that was it. That's off and running we were. But I'll never forget that day. My dad was so proud of it. He tried to give me more money by going through that scrapbook. Today, you know, the agents just, they got it all figured out, you know, and don't have to worry about it. But that was how it went. What's
it like being a World Series champion, and how long did that take to kind of settle into your mind that, you know, you are one of the few people that won a World Series?
Billy, to have people associate you with one of the best teams, arguably the best team in the history of baseball, and that being a world championship team, there you go. There you go. And if you look at that picture, there's a bunch of legs behind there. One of the one with the highest, with the most white showing is me. So it's and the older I get, the more I cherish it, because there's not a whole lot of guys got to play Major League Baseball. Not a whole lot of guys got to play in 3 World Series and 4 National League playoffs. And the realization of being a world champion, well, we didn't. I was in 3 of them, and the third one was the one we won. The parade that we had that day, sitting in the convertible with my wife, driving from Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati, winding through downtown, and you know, Cincinnati fans are really, really good. And people hanging out of those skyscrapers, throwing confetti on you, and just cheering, you know. And we had some of the greatest players that ever played the game, man. Hall of Famer, All-Stars, you know, champion, batting champions, Gold Glove winners, multiple times. To be connected with those guys. And then when we got to the square in Cincinnati to make comments, Sparky Anderson let me say a few words on behalf of the guys that rode the bench most of the year. The rest of the grade 8. The grade 8 guys get a lot of attention, and so deservingly so. But there were 25 guys that won that world championship, and Johnny Bench made comment to that a number of times, and one time at his Hall of Fame induction speech. So I got a chance to say on behalf of the guys that, you know, that were the rest of the team, how proud we were to be, you know, on that team. And we realized what our jobs were, and we knew what we were dealing with going into all those great seasons there. So that's when it sunk into me, when we had that parade, and I even got a chance to say something. And of course, I like to talk, and the other guys on the bench always said, "Oh, let Darrel say something," because he likes to talk so much. And so I thank the fans too on behalf of all of us other guys. And you know, I just I think about if I hadn't gotten traded, I'd have 2 of those big rings. You know, I've got 3 the way it is, and one of them is from the '75 team. So yeah, it's a, you know, if you just think about it, I'm 72. There's a lot of 72-year-old guys that I played with or against that never. Ernie Banks never got to play in a World Series.
Right.
There's a lot of guys that I grew up with that one of our pitchers on our baseball team, Bob Biskin, who just passed away from COVID. He signed with Cleveland Indians, hurt his arm, and he went to Vietnam, and he put his life on the line for 2 years over there. One of them in infantry, and he didn't. I got to play in the big leagues. He had to fight in Vietnam. Our catcher, Tommy O'Brien, had to go to Vietnam. One of our other younger guys on their high school team, Jim Bassey, who just died of diabetes, played a couple of years, and he didn't make it. And those are athletes. But then there's some guys that aren't athletes that, you know, grew up wanting to be a Darrel Chaney, just a chance to be a Major League Baseball player. So I know how fortunate I am, and I'll thank the Lord till the day I die for the opportunity he gave me.
Perspective. Yep. So let us all know, when did this book idea come to mind, and also tell us a little bit about motivational speaking and where people can find you. Well, you know, I love the thing that you said earlier about, you know, tell the truth. Then, because if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember your lies.
Right. So when I got well, the first speech I ever made was back in 1970. My hometown of Hammond, Indiana, threw a day for me at Wrigley Field, and I hit 191 my rookie year. And I'm thinking, they're throwing a day for me, and they ended up driving a car on the Wrigley Field and giving me a brand new 1970 Pontiac Catalina. That night, I had to make my first speech at the Darrel Chaney banquet. Pete Rose came, Woody Woodward came, my roomie, Tony Cloninger came, Jim Merritt came, Pat Corrales came. So I was nervous making my first speech. Pete Rose wrote a number of jokes for me. I couldn't use half of them. But and that day during the presentation, the mayor of Hammond, Mayor Clenn, gave me the award, and they brought the car out, and they asked Ernie Banks to come out and say a couple of words. And Ernie says, "Boy, Darrel, just think, if you had a good year last year, they'd have given you a Cadillac." So that night, I make my first speech. So that's how I got into speaking. I felt very comfortable up there. I talked for probably 40 minutes, and I said, you know, I'm pretty good at this. I think I can, you know, maybe make a career out of it. Matter of fact, that year, Al Michaels was our radio guy, and Al Michaels said, "I think you ought to go to broadcasting school. You got a resonant voice. You could be a broadcaster when your career ends. In the meantime, learn how, you know, public speak." So he got me involved in Columbia School of Broadcasting. So I got a broadcasting license. I used that later on. And so I get traded to Atlanta, and I play my time out there. And I'm, you know, Ted Turner buys the team. He's in TV and radio. He hires me for a couple of years when I'm done playing as a broadcaster. And along the way, after my career ended, I met this gentleman named Dan Henninger, the Presbyterian pastor. And Dan says to me, you know, I'd like to write a book about your experiences. We did one-on-one discipleships and things. So I told him some things that, you know, you wouldn't tell another person because you trust that man. And he wanted to write a book about how much my life mattered, even though I didn't think it was mattering during my career with the Reds, mostly. And so Dan says, one of these days I'm going to write a book about you. And I said, yeah, sure, okay. And so, 15 years ago or so, Dan he was planting a church in Castle Rock, Colorado. So he moves out there, and he tells me, and when he moves, he says, "Keep this book on the prayer list, man. One of these days I want to still write this book." And I said, "Okay, sure. I got a prayer list. I keep it." I wrote it down there. And I didn't think much of it. I prayed about it every now and then. One day, Dan calls me up 8 years ago now, and he says, I've got a friend in my church who is a financial advisor. He's gonna underwrite the cost of writing this book, so it's going to happen. I want you to fly out here, bring all your scrapbooks, and we'll collaborate on writing this book. He said, you must have been praying about me writing this book, right? Yeah. So I fly out there twice, spend a couple of days each time with Dan, and a year later, he goes up into the mountains and writes the book. And so he's the author of it. I wrote the intro to it, and the book is broken out into innings. We've got the first chapter, which is an inning, top of the first, bottom of the first. The top of the first, I tell a story related to my life in baseball, and the trials and tribulations and the wonderment of, did my life matter or not? And then Dan writes an experience of his personal experience. He wanted to be Billy Graham. I wanted to be Ernie Banks. And we all came to a much smaller level there. Dan ended up becoming a hospice pastor out there too. And and at the end of each chapter of the book, Dan asks questions that pertain to what Dan and I said in the chapter. And it ends up becoming a Bible study. And that's what we got. We're ending our first one on those this Friday. It's the last chapter of the book. The goal of the book was to provide a means for someone to read about a not so famous athlete that wanted to be a famous athlete, and a pastor that wanted to be a famous pastor, because there's a lot of men, especially younger men out there, who have gone through the same situations. May not have been a pastoral situation or a baseball situation, but life, where they needed encouragement. And that's what this book was designed to do, to help them understand that their lives matter because God says so, no matter what anybody else says. Your life matters because God says it does. And so we broke the book out. It was 7 years ago this December. Again, it's not a New York bestseller, but I can tell you it's impacted a lot of lives. It's impacted a couple of young men out in Colorado that were on a suicide watch list. And they got the book, they counseled with Dan, and they're off and running and doing a great job in life. Just one of those stories, hearing how that's impacted a man's life, tells me my life matters to somebody. The things I went through mattered. So there's two ways to get the book. And if people want me to sign it, I'll be glad to come sign. I'll be glad to go speak at a church, a group, a banquet, and sign books. I don't make any money on the book. All the book money is donated to the group that underwrote it, called the Jakin Group. And those monies, Jakin is a 501c3, so it's a tax-deductible contribution. And the Jakin Group takes those monies and helps young men who have fallen upon hard times. So I've got my own personal website, DarrelChaney.com. That's 2 R's and 1 L in Darrel, DarrelChaney.com. There's a link to the book on my personal website. And then my personal website, you can see all the things that I've talked to over the years and things. And then the book itself has a website called welcometothe.bigleagues.org. And you can purchase it online there, Amazon, Indigo, whatever still sells it. But people can buy the book online. A lot of people buy the book online. They'll send it to me with shipping and everything paid for, please. And then I sign it and send it back. But you know, if it's a big banquet and they want books, we can order them, ship them out to the banquet site, and I can get there early and sign them and talk to them. I've made the last 7 years, most every talk that I've made is geared towards 1 or 2 chapters in this book, to where it's been meaningful to me, because I know when I speak to whatever the chapters they want me to speak to, it's impacting somebody's life. Someone's life is being impacted, and it's impacting my life every time I talk about it. So yeah, if anybody's interested, that's how you get it. It's been a great run with it. We're probably selling fewer copies now than we did when it came out 7 years ago, but we're still selling copies. I got a garage full of them, and if people want to, contact me directly until I run out, then I'll just order some more. But I use them here locally when I speak and so forth. Take a few copies with me all the time, and because invariably someone will want to buy a book or two. And so we've got a soft cover, we've got a hard cover. The soft covers are $20 and the hard covers are $30. And you know, the instructions on if they write a check to goes to the Jakin Group will provide them a tax deduction as well. So thanks for letting me do that.
Oh, hey, no problem. And it's Darrel, Darrel Chaney.com, and also welcome to the bigleagues.org, O-R-G.org. I love these interviews where I roll out 2 questions and then boom, it's an hour later.
Well, I like to talk. I get paid for doing it sometimes too. So I hope I didn't bore you with it all, but you know, you ask and I answer sometimes that they're too long, but it's meaningful for me to speak and tell the story that how God has impacted my life.
No, Reds Nation will enjoy this. Everybody from Indiana will enjoy this. We thank you so much for your time. Darrel Chaney, World Series champion. Will you show us that trophy one more time?
Oh, yeah. I got my ring put away in my jewelry case, or I'd show you that too. But there's a World Championship trophy. Now, what happens when you win a World Championship is each player on the team gets a ring, and then each player gets a replica of the World Championship trophy. This will go to my grave, and then my son will take over, and so will all the rings that I have. I've got 3 grandsons, so I imagine somewhere down the line my 3 grandsons will wear my 70, 72, and 75 rings. But and I'll show you one more thing, because a lot of guys like me don't get to have these very often. There's only one of these out there. It's my Darrel Chaney bobblehead doll. Look at that thing. You go to ballparks today, and you know you get up your first 20,000, you get a bobblehead doll, and they made them of almost everybody that played on the Big Red Machine, especially the grade 8, right? Yeah. Well, a guy that comes to my golf tournament, a young man I helped get going in the broadcasting business, his dad wanted to say thanks, so he went online. You can go online and get these things made, and he had one made just for me. So I'm keeping this too.
That is absolutely awesome. In the background, you may be able to see I got one of Pete back there, but that's
I see it. Yeah,
absolutely awesome. Darrel Chaney, thank you so much. People go to welcometothebigleagues.org and also check out Darrel's website, darrelchaney.com. That's Darrel Chaney.com. Darrel, thank you so much. I appreciate it. This is one great interview, and I think everybody will enjoy.
Billy, I appreciate you having me on. Thanks so much. You all have a great day. God bless you.